Hello and welcome to the third and the Don Football Show. I am Joe. With me is Cecil, as always, here to talk some NFL football. Week 12 had some really interesting games worth watching. A lot of them came down to the wire. We're going to get you ready for Week 13 as well. Cecil, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. My Bengals are riding high. I've clinched playoff spots in two of my fantasy leagues, and I'm in control of my own destiny in another. So I'm in a great spot this week.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. We just got back from watching the World Cup together. We are a football show, not a football show, but it's always fun for USA to get some wins. So a lot of fun there. Cecil, let's get started with our recaps to start things off. We'll start off with our Thanksgiving Day games. We had the Bills and Lions. Bills win 28-25 over the Lions. Um, this is one where it's maybe closer than we expected. I think we both picked the Bills to cover, but the Lions were hot. They played pretty well in this game. Kept it close, almost came back and got the win at the end. But Bills just a little bit too much. Josh Allen, 253 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 10 carries, 78 rushing yards, and 1 touchdown. And that's all she wrote. I mean, it was a short week. Lions had the advantage on that with the home game, but the Bills won.
Yeah, the Lions put up a good game. I mean, that's what was huge. I mean, the Bills had to basically win at the end of the game instead of it just being a foregone conclusion. Um, it's just something about this Bills team. It's an expectation of being like a Super Bowl team, being elite, that you just blow out everybody. And that just really hasn't been happening as much with Buffalo as of late. They started slow. Josh Allen's made some mistakes. He is playing hurt and everything as well. But the Lions are playing hard. They're kind of going to be a fun team to watch down the stretch. I'm excited that they made this game really worth watching because I know there's been some rough day games in Detroit through, and to see them at least, maybe they can, really save Dan Campbell's coaching career right now. So a lot of exciting things there, and but the Bills ultimately get the win.
Absolutely, keep on moving on. They're 8-3 in the AFC East. As that's gonna be interesting to see how the division finishes out there. But we'll keep on moving on. We'll go to the second game of Thanksgiving. That is the Cowboys and the Giants. Cowboys win 28-20, and Cease, we told people to go to their casino and put money on Giants +9. And what do you know? They lose by 8. So thank God for that. We led the people in the right direction on that one. The Giants started off pretty hot. The Cowboys just kind of finished strong. They're scoring around 30 points a game since Dak returned from his injury. Ezekiel Elliott looked refreshed. He had 92 yards on 16 carries and a touchdown. CeeDee Lamb looks good. I mean, this team looks really good. We told you that they wouldn't beat the Giants by more than 9, but winning the game by one score is still very, very good.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I looked at watching this game. I mean, the first half was very even. And then, the Cowboys are a more talented team. Everyone's known that this whole year. I don't think that's a surprise. And I think the thing we're looking at with the Giants right now is well coached, but I mean, they just don't have the star staying power that some other teams have because they just don't have that talent as the roster is constructed currently. Maybe they get OBJ or something of that nature, which after certain things happen this weekend on their plane, it's hard to say what that means for any of the signings, but they need some help, really, to be a team that's going to make noise in the playoffs by any means. Otherwise, I mean, they're at that rate where they're probably going to make it, but after they make it, they're probably out as soon as, one and done kind of deal. So, but I mean, they play hard. It's a division game. Luckily, we were sweating there when I bet the house on this game. And, it looked like it was going to be a blowout there for a second in the second half. But the Giants were able to hold on to 8 points. And for that, I am thankful for it in this season of giving.
So there you go. Cowboys 8-3, Giants 7-4. We're gonna move on to the Thanksgiving night game. The Vikings win 33-26 over the New England Patriots. This is a game where neither team could run the ball, which left it up to Mac Jones versus Kirk Cousins. Difference being here, Kirk Cousins, even though it was a primetime game, it's not like a real primetime game on Thursday Night Football. Even if it is Thanksgiving, people are stuffed from their Thanksgiving meals. Not everyone's paying attention. He played pretty well. Justin Jefferson had 9 catches for 139 yards and 1 touchdown. And guess what? The Patriots don't have Justin Jefferson. That was the difference right there. So they get the win 33-26.
Exactly. And you're right. I mean, basically, the difference here is the Patriots don't have Justin Jefferson, like you said. I don't trust it either. This isn't a true primetime game. It's the third Thanksgiving game, which for the longest time was just on NFL Network and was in the early days where no one had NFL Network, so no one could even watch it. So nice try. Anyway, I mean, the defense has played well. They limited the run because both these teams, I don't think, are great. I'm still throwing the frauds label on the Vikings. So they win this, but at the same time, I kind of heard this about the Patriots in some other broadcasts recently. Is the Patriots are kind of been the Mendoza line over the last couple of weeks of whether your team's okay. The panic button. You look at the Jets. You look at some of the other teams they play. There's been a lot of like, oh, you beat the Patriots, you're okay, but if you lose the Patriots, it's kind of what are we doing with our season? So again, Vikings, it's an okay test. I'm not saying the Patriots are a great team, but they're well coached, and ultimately the Vikings will lean on their weapon. Do not have.
Yeah. The getting the win for the Vikings again. I mean, I don't think any of us are going to change our opinions on the Vikings, regardless of whether they win any games or lose any games from here on out. We'll just kind of see how things go. Whether you think they're frauds, whether you think they'll lose in the first round, it's more about the matchups than any results coming from here on out. I think if you look at statistically, they have like the third best odds to make the Super Bowl right now. And we agree or disagree, that's just what it is, and we'll see how that turns out in the next couple weeks here.
Third best, wow.
Yeah. We'll move on to Sunday game, Cease. The Browns beat the Buccaneers in overtime 23-17. This was a weird game because the Browns kind of took the lead after the first quarter, then they didn't score again to the fourth quarter, and then they scored in overtime again. So a little bit of a streaky game here. Nick Chubb had 26 carries, 116 yards, and a touchdown. Tom Brady had a decent day, not his greatest day. But the story here is Jacoby Brissett leads the Browns to this overtime win over the Bucs. I think he's actually played pretty well in relief of Deshaun Watson, or I guess in place of Deshaun Watson. And now he goes to the bench. Deshaun Watson comes in. You're 4-7. I mean, Jacoby Brissett's not the reason why this team is 4-7. I guess is what I would say. You hope that Deshaun Watson gives you a spark if you're the Browns. But you have to be appreciative of what Jacoby Brissett did, even keeping the Browns even within distance to try to even make a run at the playoffs, even though it's very unlikely.
Right, and I mean that's good for them. I mean, it's a feel-good story for Jacoby Brissett. He may have saved his career. Somebody might take him, as that bridge journeyman quarterback still after the kind of the very rocky year with the Colts. During that whole Philip Rivers year as well. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately that's a feel-good story. The Browns have looked worse. Deshaun Watson is not going to fix all their problems by any means. Obviously, it will help the offense. It'll be kind of functional versus just having a very strong running game at all times. But the bigger issue as of late has just been the defense. And, I mean, they're able to pull through in this game. But ultimately, it's the Bucs so effective in so many ways. Both these teams are just kind of teams that had higher expectations that have performed very poorly through the season, especially the Buccaneers. And, at the end of the day, there were some questionable decisions about not using timeouts at the year of the Buccaneers as well, which is 100% true. I don't know why you don't try a little harder to end it in regulation. And then in overtime, the Browns just overran them and them just over. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the sad thing is the Bucs are still very well in control of their own destiny and are in top of the NFC 5-6 of all records. And it's just, I mean, it's an absolute dumpster fire. If you're in the NFC South, they're going to walk in. I can't really, in confidence, pick Buccaneers against anybody that's probably that's going to be in the playoffs, and that includes the Vikings. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to continue to be there. Cleveland, but it's too little, too late. Even with Deshaun coming back, they pretty much would have to win out to have even a shot at the play. This team, as it's constructed currently, is just not going to be able to do that.
I would agree with you. They can maybe get some wins at the end of the season, but going perfect is going to be way too tough, especially in the tough AFC. If they're in the NFC, maybe they make a run. I don't know. But AFC is a little bit too tough this year. The Miami Dolphins beat the Houston Texans 30-15. Texans got the points in garbage time. I don't have too much on this season. The Dolphins were the much better team. Tua didn't have his best game. He threw for 299 yards and a touchdown. But we talked in the pregame. We both mentioned that this is a team you just run the ball on the Texans and you win, and they did that.
Right, absolutely. At the end of the day, the Dolphins are really good. They pulled Tua out. Ron Armstead had a scary injury. He pulled his pec, so luckily he didn't tear it because he would be out for the season. But he'll be out for, he's going to be week to week. I don't know what games he's going to miss. No one's really sure at this point. But as soon as he went out, which was kind of scary, that offensive line, and rightfully so, really struggled. And Tua was getting hit a couple too many times, so it was a very smart decision by the Dolphins to just get him out of there. So, I mean, there's really nothing to talk about. The Dolphins are a much better team, and, some people are saying they're contending for a possible Super Bowl. And the Texans are firmly in last place in the league.
Wow. And yeah, the Texans have one of the toughest schedules remaining too. So if you had a bet out there that the Texans would have the worst record, you might be happy. If you want for the Texans, you're probably happy too, because now you have the number one pick probably and can draft the quarterback of the future, because Davis Mills played well last year and not so well this year. Next big game up, we have the New York Jets beating the Chicago Bears 31-10. Kind of headlines from this game: we have Darnell Mooney going out for the season. We have Justin Fields sitting out this game with a shoulder injury. He didn't really sit out; he was told he was out. Why would you risk it when your team is 3-8 at this point? So he's out in this game. The Jets bench Zach Wilson. Mike White goes in and throws 22 of 28 for 315 yards and 3 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson has 5 catches for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you're the Jets, you ride with Mike White the rest of the way. He's efficient, and that defense is really, really good. That is really good for them. And the Bears, I mean, they should just shut Justin Fields down if there's any risk of injury. We already talked about that last week, though.
Yeah. He's a very underrated screenwriter, Mike White, as well.
Mm-hmm. School Rock,
great
ever
actor.
seen it?
Yeah. Heard it's good. But sometimes, The Legend of the Rock is way too hardcore. So at the end of the day, though, I've been saying this since last year when the Jets beat the Bengals with Mike White, a.k.a., as I like to call him, the check down king. He's not going to make your offense great, but he makes it functional his way and make your team competitive. So Mike White showed that he should be the starter for the rest of the year at this point. And, if you're the Bears, everyone's sitting out. Darnell Mooney's out. I don't know really how much you want to risk Justin Fields for the rest of the year unless he's truly pretty healthy. Because, last thing you want to really do is risk a guy who finally figured out a system with and have him get an injury that's way worse, like he maybe tears his shoulder or something dumb like that. So be careful with him. Don't do what some people do and just keep throwing him out there on meaningless games, especially if he's a run-first quarterback. Make sure he's fully healthy before you commit to that. And ultimately, their season's over. It was a lot of rain this game, and Mike White's able to pull it through.
Absolutely. We'll move on, Cease. The Commanders beat the Falcons 19-13. They really ran the ball well on the Falcons in this game. They won the rushing battle, and that's something that the Falcons have prided themselves on this year, just running the ball, and they know they can't throw the ball with Marcus Mariota as much as other teams. So the Commanders do that. They won 19-13. They're one of the hottest teams in the league. We talked about that last week. Won 6 of their last 7, and the team just is rallied behind Taylor Heineke, and he's not going to be the guy with the strongest arm. He's not going to be the guy who's the fastest, whatever. The skills are not like NFL caliber skills in terms of starting quarterbacks or guys you want to build a team around, but he gets the most out of this team. For some reason, everyone plays better when he's in.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where, there is something to be said about teams play harder for certain guys than others. And that's Taylor Heineke in this situation. They play better for him, and it clearly shows in the win column. They beat out a Falcons team, excuse me, that is, been surging and has kind of fallen down as of late. And, ultimately, the Commanders are doing a lot of things right when it comes to everything else besides the quarterback position. And, at this point, if you don't get a high enough draft pick, I think you got to give Taylor Heineke the starting job next year. And, at this point, they're in – right now, I believe they're in the playoffs if the season ended right now with Taylor Heineke starting a quarterback. So, I think you ride that wave, and I think you try to find a better Sean Taylor statue if you can, because that thing was awful.
That was insulting. Absolutely insulting. I'm with you. I stick with Taylor Heineke next year. I build around him. Maybe pick it's weird to say build around him, but yeah, build around him and get another first-round pick that you can put on defense or some sort of weapon or a protection. Doesn't matter. They play better when he's in there. And you're right, Cease. Every single NFC East team would be in the playoffs if the season ended today. How crazy is that?
The NFC Beast, baby. The Beast is back.
The Beast is back. Next one will be quick, Cease. The Panthers beat the Broncos. Both these teams are pretty bad. We mentioned that the Panthers shouldn't have fired Matt Rule because now they're in a position to not have a high enough draft pick to get one of those quarterbacks as they have 4 wins and their schedule is actually decently easy down the stretch. They're actually probably still in contention for the playoffs in that division, given how things have gone. So they might actually make the playoffs, which is probably the worst case scenario for the Panthers. They win 23-10 over the Broncos. We've already talked about the Broncos and how much they suck enough. I mean, the Panthers still suck, but I mean, they played better with Sam Darnold at quarterback this week, so that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, Sam Darnold, Sandy Football, as you call him, or as I call him, Unfrozen Caveman quarterback, got him a win. And it's not because the Panthers did anything well. It's just because the Broncos are in complete disarray. At this point, even the defense of Russell Wilson is starting to have words with him on and off the sidelines. So, I mean, I would be pretty upset if I were them as well, because ultimately this team has had a really good elite-level defense over the last couple of years. They were one quarterback away. But it seems now they have Russell Wilson. They are doing even worse than when they had, replacement level guys starting. So very frustrating. They've now committed all him, and it is a bad situation in Denver.
Yeah, absolutely. They need to figure that thing out for next year because they're on the hook now for a while with the money with Russell Wilson. So hopefully they figure that out. Hopefully the Panthers figure out if they want to tank or whatever's going on with them. Definitely some things to figure out this offseason with what they do moving forward. Next game up, the Ravens-Jaguars game. There was a lightning delay. This game kind of lasted a little bit longer. It was kind of fun to watch the end of this game because of the lightning delay. Maybe something to be said about staggered starts at 1 p.m. But we were able to watch the end of this game specifically. And the Ravens looked like they had this one pretty locked up. And then the Jaguars come storming back at the end. They get the ball back. Trevor Lawrence leads a touchdown drive. They could go for an extra point and tie it up after Marvin Jones had a pretty good catch on the touchdown catch. But they decided to go for two. Doug Peterson kind of knows there's nothing to lose. You're 3-7 at this point. If you win, you go 4-7, and you're still probably not making the playoffs. But why not go? Give some confidence to your quarterback. They get the 2-point conversion to go up 28-27. The weird part is they then decided to squib kick the kickoff and gave the Ravens good field position that almost let Justin Tucker hit a game-winning field goal. With the way the rules are these days and how much kickers can kick it out of the back of the end zone, that is curious that they would pull off a squib kick because they almost lost this game out of pure stupidity. Probably wants to have that one back, but they ended up winning. That's all that matters for the Jaguars.
Yeah, all sins are forgiven if you get the W. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, Trevor Lawrence finally turned it on in a drive we haven't seen really since the beginning, early in the season. So it's good for him to get confidence, and maybe they can build on that for the rest of the season for them. And again, it's just another meltdown by the Baltimore Ravens at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. We roll back the clocks a month ago, and they were one of the elite contenders for the Super Bowl and represent the AFC. And at this point, I mean, they're going to probably win the AFC North just by dictation of how easy their schedule is versus, the Bengals, who we'll talk about in a little bit as well. But their schedule is so easy, and, they're losing games to the Jaguars they have no way of losing. They play Carolina at home last week and barely win that game until finally doing some stuff in the fourth quarter. They're playing bad teams close, and, I mean, they just really haven't done anything that dominating or great since the early, half quarter of the season, I should say. So, am I in panic mode if you're the Baltimore Ravens? No, because you're not going to miss the playoffs. You're probably going to still win the division. But you can't keep playing like this. They play like a Steelers team that went undefeated for most of the season and then just got walloped at the end of the year. That's the kind of trajectory they could do in this, because sure, they're winning games, but they're not playing well. And eventually, if they don't turn it on before then, you're going to hit the playoffs, and these teams are going to run all over them. And it's just not going to be a good look.
Absolutely. We'll see if they can get things right in the next little bit here. We're going to go to a game that had some similarities here because the Chargers beat the Cardinals 25-24. This game is tied up after the third quarter when Cameron Dicker hits a 26-yard field goal to tie it up at 17. The Cardinals score with 13 minutes in the fourth quarter left, with James Conner getting a 6-yard pass from Kyler Murray. The Chargers on the last drive, they throw a 1-yard pass to Austin Eckler, get the touchdown. They decide to go for two. Justin Herbert finds Gerald Everett to get the 2-point conversion. Another case of let's go for two after we tie it up. And the Chargers get the win. And I think that Brandon Staley's taken a lot of heat, but this decision I think was a good one. They're on the road. You need a win. Going to overtime is always sometimes based on a coin flip still in the regular season. So cool for them. They got the win, and they needed it in this tough AFC playoff picture.
Right. No, absolutely they did. And like exactly what you said, I give props to Coach Staley for everything, in this decision for making the right one and kind of winning it on the road right then and there. He does get a lot of heat, and some of it is necessary, though, but it's good for the Chargers to, start getting back to what they need to be. Keenan Allen lineup, that's huge. Mike Williams hopefully will be back next week. And, the able to do a lot, with Keenan Allen in the lineup, it seems, on offense as well. The defense, sure, it's away, but, we have two teams that similar talent pool, but one is doing what the right things to win, and the other games, kind of fall out of their hands. Mm-hmm. All the Cardinals really need to do was hold on for that last drive, and they would have won the game, but their defense can't come up. And, Kyler Murray says dumb things, after the game. He's just acting very immature. And at a certain point, I don't know what's going to be forgivable going into this next season, what's not. And, it's going to be a sort of Cliff Kingsbury's got to go just because they've committed so much money to Kyler Murray, even though I don't know that Kyler Murray is necessarily the answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're another team that has a lot of things to figure out this offseason, whether it's firing Cliff Kingsbury, whether it's figuring out what to do with Kyler Murray, whether you need someone who can be a different type of voice for him, much like Mike McDaniel is with Tua. I don't know what it is, but they have a lot of things to figure out. It's probably best for them that they don't make the playoffs. I mean, just so they can get a higher draft pick so that they can figure these things out, get moving in a different direction. Another 4 p.m. game sees the Raiders beat the Seahawks on the road. They win 40-34. This was the Josh Jacobs game. The Raiders did not pick up his fifth-year option, and he decided to go out on a tear this year. This game included, he had 33 carries for 229 yards, 2 touchdowns. That included the game-winning touchdown in overtime where he ran an 86-yard touchdown run in, and he wasn't even touched on the play. It was crazy. They deserve a lot of credit for getting the win and not checking out on the season because, quite frankly, they are 4-7, and as we mentioned with some other teams who are 4-7, it's very hard to make the playoffs in the AFC with that record. So good for them to get in the win, and the Seahawks, that's a loss that you don't want to have when the Raiders have played so poorly to start the year and you're at home.
I mean, the Seahawks are fading down the stretch right now, and that's kind of becoming worrisome. They're in a position where they can very well make the playoffs, but the 49ers are surging. I don't think they're going to win the NFC West, so they're going to have to, focus on the wild card here. I think part of it is, teams are game planning. The Seahawks tape on all these rookies. There's more tape versus fighting them all. These are in them a great deal, but I mean, they just didn't stop Josh Jacobs in this game at all. The pass didn't have a great game by any means. He really struggled, 2 picks. Davante Adams didn't do anything until pretty much the last, fourth quarter, last drive or 2 of the game. And, I mean, you can't lose the Raiders. The Raiders are a team pretty much been forgotten and left for dead. Take this and go on a little bit of a run here. They have this kind of soft schedule, and I mean, going into the season, they had the makings of a decent team. They got a really good running back, obviously, with Josh Jacobs. They've got Davante Adams, who's a superstar wide receiver. They have a decent, a good quarterback in Derek Carr. I'll say that. I think he's, right outside that top 10 in the league. So, I mean, that's not a horrible. The bigger problem is they just, besides Max Crosby, their defense sucks. And that's really going to be the big issue and has been the reason they've lost so stop anybody. So, I mean, the offense is there. They keep, ending overtimes on big touchdown plays and things. I don't worry about it as much, but ultimately, it's the games of regulation, this defense they have to worry about.
Yeah, definitely. That's just one of the many games this week, Cease, that was very, very fun to watch as it went into overtime and had a good ending to the game there, as a lot of these have been. But we'll move on to a couple games in a row that we probably don't need to talk about a lot. They just weren't that good. The Chiefs beat the Rams 26-10. The Rams had no Cooper Kupp. The Rams had no Allen Robinson. The Rams had Bryce Perkins at quarterback for Matt Stafford. This is what should have happened. The Chiefs arguably should have won by more. That's all I got for that.
Yeah, definitely should have dominated this game way more. They let the Rams stay in there. The Rams have literally no offensive players except for person came back who's not a really top 2 wide receiver on most teams in the NFL, and then you've got Cam Akers is the starting back now because they got rid of Darrell Henderson. But other than that, I mean the rookie Perkins. I mean I don't know rookie Perkins played well, and I mean they made the best of it and waiting for next year at this point. But the Chiefs, I mean, they played well, but they didn't play great, and that's kind of the thing with the Chiefs is they're so good. Wins. It's not about winning. It's like college football. It's about how much they win by.
Yeah, you're right. It's just getting the wins is the most important thing. The Chiefs looking pretty good right now. We're going to pick the game against the Bengals a little bit later. That'll be fun for us to talk about. Next game up sees the 49ers beat the Saints 13-0. Nothing on this one. This was an awful game. If you watched it, God bless you.
Yeah, it's the Saints could do nothing. Alvin absolutely nothing. Yeah, that's really all you need to write home about. The 49 Elijah Mitchell for him, so that's kind of a blow. But at the same time, they have Christian McCaffrey, so it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, 49ers continue to roll out.
All right, well, we got the next game up is the Cincinnati Bengals. They win 20-16. We both picked them to win and cover the spread on the road, and they did so barely with a 4-point win. They started slow. Looks like they needed to get some play calling differences, not drop some passes. Just everything that went wrong at the start, still what kind of just kept that way. But Samaje Perine fills in well for Joe Mixon. Shows his ability to catch the ball, pass protect, even run the ball. And then Joe Burrow finds T. Higgins for 114 yards. The Bengals score a touchdown in the last couple minutes there, and then they hold on for the win.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a gritty to win, and they showed it in here. I mean, they weren't winning at halftime. They went down. Huge play from Derrick Henry. Luckily, they cause a fumble. Treylon Burks recovers in the end zone for a touchdown anyway. It's looking like Titans are finding their way, and we're going to just get run over probably in the second half. But they keep their composure. They stay calm, and they just start executing on a really high level, especially in that second half. Good against the run. Derrick Henry was severely eliminated. They were meeting him before he even got to the line of scrimmage half the time. So, I mean, just a really good, great game all around. A lot of people were talking about how great the Titans were playing. And, now Cincinnati came into town and they beat them in a really, they kind of beat them at the game. Power, being physical. And that's what the Bengals did ultimately. The offensive line played decently well as well. And, T. Higgins had a great – so did Joe Burrow and Samaje Perine. We feel and I mean, and it's scary to see what this Bengals team is capable of without some of its starters. No Joe Mixon, no Jamar Chase, and they're still having an identity where they're scoring points. They're moving the chains, and they're able to come back from adversity when they're not leading it. And that's a big thing. And I mean, at this point, they all they have to do is go 500 the rest of the way, and I have confidence they will do that. And I have confidence they might have the ability to do even more and really, put up some impressive games as they go into the postseason.
I would agree. They've looked really good, and they've coped with some of the losses pretty well so far. I do think Eli Apple played pretty well against the Titans. Cam Taylor-Britt had his moments against the Titans. At corner, that's going to be a big thing moving forward. That could be something that results and maybe a loss this week to the Chiefs, maybe a loss in the playoffs. But so far, they're covering up for that big loss of Chidobe Awuzie, who's out for the season. So, been good to see that. Good to see them win with injured players who are coming back as well, without injured players who are coming back as well. It's nice to see that, and we'll see what we can do this last couple of games here of the regular season. We'll see if they can get some wins and make the playoffs, and maybe even more, like you said. The Eagles beat the Packers 40-33 on Sunday Night Football. This one was a good old-fashioned shootout. Jalen Hurts played pretty well, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, 157 rushing yards. The they made the Packers play some catch up here. Aaron Rodgers gets banged up. They put in Jordan Love. Jordan Love gets a couple touchdowns, but at the end of the day, the Eagles were kind of always in control of this one and didn't really look back.
Right. I mean, the Eagles went up 13-0 in this game, and I thought it was over then. So, I mean, hats off the Packers for staying in this game and really making the Eagles keep going. It could have very well just been over at halftime. That would have been it. I mean, the Packers season's been over. We've known that at this point for a while. It sucks to see Aaron Rodgers continue to get beat up back there, and we'll see how much he actually plays the rest of the season. But I would really thought Jordan Love looked pretty good. I mean, obviously that's a small sample size. I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers should be replaced or anything like that. If Aaron Rodgers isn't really 100%, take a game or two and evaluate Jordan Love. Because, I mean, from that 2-3 drives, you look way more comfortable than they did any time in 2 years they've had him as a quarterback. So I'm not, beginner's luck. I'm not saying, let's create a quarterback controversy, but give your, 40-year-old back time to heal. He's not younger. He's coming off of some injuries. Looks like ribs now, thumb injury he's been dealing with all season. Let Jordan Love see what you have with this guy before, his contract's going to run out and you're just going to dump him. So see if you have some kind of actual future with this guy. I mean, he looked good with Christian Watson too, which is important. And I mean, he gets a lot of practice time because apparently it takes everyone to the thumb injury. He's not green. It's not like he gets no practice time with these guys. I mean, maybe, let him go for a game or two and see how he goes from a development perspective. And then, who knows? Going into the season, you never know with Aaron Rodgers and things like that, what could happen. So it's good to have a backup plan if Aaron Rodgers decides to stop playing or something.
Yeah, I would say that's a good idea too to get him some reps, see what you got, see if you got some trade bait, and also just preserve Aaron Rodgers because if you have any chance of winning anything next year, then you probably need him, and the dead cap is there, so you're definitely going to use him. So see what you got there, see if you can trade him, see if you can get a different backup, whatever you need to do. I think is at this rate probably the best thing for the future. They have some things to clean up for next year, and that includes the defense, and that's something that Aaron Rodgers just can't control. So why are you risking it? So I'm with you on that one. Monday Night Football, the Steelers win 24-17 over the Indianapolis Colts, pulling off the upset on the road. They go up early. The Colts come storming back in the third quarter, but then the Steelers score a touchdown and get a 2-point conversion to go up 7 seats. And you can get there's some other storylines in there too. Kenny Pickett played pretty well. Benny Snell filled in for Najee Harris after Najee Harris went out with an injury, and Jalen Warren is already out, and he played really well too. But basically what happens is we're in the game at 17. It's tied. The Steelers went up 24-17. The Colts are trying to come back, and then Jeff Saturday does not use his timeouts on the final drive. He said it wasn't a dire enough situation to use them. He didn't think they needed to until they hit 30 seconds on the game clock, and the clock just slowly dies down because they don't use any of their 3 timeouts. That's on Jeff Saturday. That's on Matt Ryan, too. I mean, I think he's got to know what the timeout situation and take charge in this situation is to try to get a win. But the Steelers hang on because of it, because the Colts were disorganized and disarray. They didn't use their timeouts, and it didn't end up working out for them. So the Steelers got the win.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a messy football game. Matt Ryan in the first half looked horrible. And then, he started making throws. And really, they just don't get Jonathan Taylor involved enough. When they do, they had a successful drive, but when they don't, they just keep putting it on Matt Ryan to do something that he can't do anymore at this advanced age. If anything, it's more for his heads-up plays that you need him in those 2-minute drills is what matter, and they really didn't come together with that. Steelers, the defense played well enough. They got some takeaways, which was huge. And, I mean, the offense didn't really convert very much in the red zone, especially in the first half. They were really good field position off of a couple turnovers, and those they come away with a field goal after field goal. Kenny Pickett did enough to get the win. He used his feet a little bit. George Pickens was involved a great deal as well. Like you said, B.J. Snell looked decent in relief. But ultimately, we know both these teams are not very good. And there's a lot of things for them to work out still. At the end of the day, it was a somewhat entertaining game. And if you're the Colts, the biggest take away from this is, we got to get back to basics and start enforcing our will on people, because that's what we invested in the offensive line, and we have a all-star back in the backfield, Jonathan Taylor. Let's start acting like it instead of only using him sparingly.
Yeah, definitely. That's what's going to get them back to competing. Is if they do that, maybe not this year, but in the future, just back to competing would be dominating the line of scrimmage, and that's why they brought Jeff Saturday in too. So dominate the line of scrimmage, play good defense, and that's what the key to success. That is our recap, C. So let's go to our preview of Week 13. We're going to kick it off with Thursday Night Football. We have the Buffalo Bills favored by 5 points on the road against the New England Patriots.
Yeah, Buffalo to win cover. I think the Patriots are progressive. I think the Bills. I'm really not that worried about it. I know they've gotten starts and everything, but can't bet on the with Damon Harris out too. I'm just not going to bet on that. I just know the Bills can score a lot and have the potential to, and ultimately I've got to bank on that.
Yeah, I'm going Bills to win and cover too. We mentioned all the time that sometimes when your team's not good, they can kind of be fighters of teams for a while, and then they end up kind of falling off the map. I kind of feel like how the Patriots are going to go in the AFC East this year. Just so many good teams, and essentially, I just think by the end of the year they're going to be worn out. The Bills did kind of survive their downturn, and now they're kind of starting to play better again. Josh Allen's still not 100%, but I think they win and cover on the road. Sunday afternoon, Cease, we have an NFC Beast battle. We have the Washington Commanders at the New York Giants. Commanders favored by 2.5 points on the road.
Give me the Commanders to win and cover here. I'm liking the way they're playing right now. They're using that running game really well. Really, Terry Heineke's just getting the ball to their weapons, and the defense is playing decently well as well. The Giants are on a downturn right now. It's really, Saquon hasn't been as great over the last couple of weeks, and the defense has had some injuries, and so has their offensive line. So the Giants are fighting through a lot of stuff, and I just think they're kind of fading, and really the Commanders are playing hot. So you got to take the hot team in this one. So Commanders to win and cover.
Yes, I'm going Commanders as well. This is the first of 2 straight matchups with the Giants. As we mentioned, they have a bye week in between, but just weird scheduling. I'm going Commanders to win and cover. They're playing better with Taylor Heineke. The defense is stepping up. Some of the defensive players, including Jamin Davis on the linebacking core, playing really well. So I'm going to go Commanders to win and cover on the road. New York Jets at the Minnesota Vikings. Sees the Vikings favored by 3 points.
Give me the Minnesota Vikings to win and cover. I think the Jets are playing very well, and I think Mike White will keep them in this game. I think the Vikings, and I am interested really Sauce Gardner Justin Jefferson game. I really hope the two of them stick to each other like glue, and I really want to look forward to that matchup. But the Jets are banged up at running back as well. They've had injuries throughout the whole season, and I just think the Vikings have too much offense to really be limited this much by a Jets team who's still, let's be honest, where they should be.
Yes, I'm going with the Vikings to win and cover as well. I think the quarterback issue, the running back issues, I think Mike White will probably give them some life to end the year. Maybe they still make the playoffs and everything, but it's gonna be tough to win on the road against the Vikings, who are a very good team in their own right. They have some deficiencies, including at corner. But is Mike White the guy to kind of exploit that? I'm not sure he is. So I'm going to go Vikings to win and cover. I think Justin Jefferson has a big game. I think they move him around enough that maybe Sauce Gardner doesn't travel with him. And if he does, then it opens up different things on the defense that they can exploit. Tennessee Titans at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles favored by 5.
With the points. I think as much as the weapons Philly has and everything, I think they're going to get played very tough in this game throughout. I think, the Titans are going to try to impose their physical mentality on the Eagles. And it's just, I like this game. It's going to be interesting. And I just have a feeling it's going to be close. I know the Titans just really are not happy about their loss at home. And, they want to get back on track. And, both these teams can be very physical. I think, Jalen Hurts can be a little more than and he's just not going to be used to the Titans in this one. So ultimately, I think it's going to be a good game. The Eagles should win, but it will be close.
Exact same pick for me, Cease. The Eagles will win the game, but the Titans will keep it within the 5 points. It may not seem like a large spread, but I think it will be close. The Eagles, the one thing they've struggled with is stopping the run. That's why they got signed all those veteran free agents. God knows if they're going to help or not, but that's what they signed them. I think Derrick Henry has a big game to help them keep it close. And if they start just selling out to stop the run, maybe Ryan Tannehill will play like he did against the Packers 2 weeks ago, where he just starts lighting it up too. So I'm going to go Titans against the spread. Eagles straight up. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Detroit Lions. Sees Lions favored by 1 point.
I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions to win and cover the 1 point, obviously, by virtue of picking them. I think, the Jaguars are in kind of a feel-good mode from what happened at the end of last game, but they didn't play well the entire time. Travis Etienne is, foot injury. He's kind of hurt. I think, they're saying he probably should play this week, but still that's kind of an injury you want to look out for, and that's been a big part of their offense is that running game. Michael Hastings was a big part of filling last week. Trevor Lawrence. Lions. I mean, they woke up and played well against Buffalo last week, and they've had a kind of a mini bye with playing on Thursday night and everything. So I got to go with the Lions. As much as I know I'm never super confident in them, I think they have enough offensive firepower that's kind of back and healthy and working together. The defense is doing enough that they should be able to contain the other team.
I'm going Lions too. Lions win and cover. They get a longer time to prepare for this game. The Jaguars played on Sunday. The Lions played on Thanksgiving. I think that has to come into effect here. The Lions playing pretty well over the last couple weeks, even playing the Bills tough. Just a lot going well for the Lions right now. I think their offensive line can protect Jared Goff. He can make plays, and they get the win. Denver Broncos at the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens favored by 8.5.
You never know with the Ravens because they seem to play down with the competition, but I got to go Ravens to win and cover here. The Broncos' offense is just pitiful. They're on track to score the lowest amount of points in, I think, franchise history, and they're not very far off the modern league records. Now, those are obviously skewed depending on the eras and things like that. But basically, long story short, season the defense is still there, but I mean, Baltimore's just in a completely different class, and they should be able to win this one handily. The only thing that worries me is how bad the Ravens have played down the stretch so far.
That's kind of where I'm at too, Cease. This is more about the Broncos being that bad than the Ravens showing me anything so far this year, at least in the last couple of weeks. They need to get back to having Lamar Jackson run the football. They need to get back to having players get back healthy, which I know is tough for them, but just need to go back to their identity instead of, trying to play conservative, not have Lamar run, and that way you don't move the chains, and that way you let the Jaguars get back in the game after you think you have it won. So I think they're going to do that. They're going to be more focused this week. They're going to be at home, and they're playing a team that is among the worst in the NFL, so that should help. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons favored by 1 at home.
This is kind of just a very whatever game. I mean, you got to look at the Falcons. They're just really struggling throughout. Ultimately, they're fading down the stretch. That's just how easy it is. The Steelers are playing a little bit better with a little bit of an identity on offense. Give me the Steelers. I think they're playing better right now. I think the win is on the road in this one. So give me the Steelers as the upset pick.
Interesting. I'm going to go with the Falcons to win and cover. Mostly just so we pick something different on this, but also I don't know. I think the Falcons will try to run the ball. They'll take care of it. The Steelers are coming on a short week. I'll go with Falcons. But you're right. This is not one you're going to go to the casino and just run and bet on because there's no real right answer to this question. Green Bay Packers at the Chicago Bears. Packers favored by 3 on the road.
Yeah, give me the Packers to win and cover. Even if I've seen enough from Jordan Love that even if he's the starter, I think Green Bay will be able to beat Chicago. Justin Fields is really beat up as well, and their defense is not anything to be worried about at this point in the season. So Green Bay's done a really good job against the Bears as of late, and I think that'll continue here.
I did too. Excuse me. Sorry. The Packers are going to win and cover. The Bears have a lot of issues. They traded away their defensive players. Justin Fields is banged up even if he goes. Smart plays take the Packers to win and cover on the road. All right, we have the Deshaun Watson revenge game. Cleveland Browns at Houston Texans. Browns favored by 7 on the road. He's first game back from suspension, and he returns to the Texans. Like that wasn't set up.
Yeah, the NFL loves their publicity.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the Browns should win and cover. And that's what I'm picking. I don't know how rusty Deshaun Watson's going to be. I'm guessing he's not going to look absolutely great. Of not no one to get right, better to get right against than the Houston Texans that he basically abandoned. So, I think it's going to be much more about the Browns running game. It's just going to dominate the Texans, and they're going to try to ease Deshaun Watson in as much as possible before they have to play a real game next week.
Yeah, Browns win and cover. Texans are just very, very bad. I mean, you're benching Davis Mills. Dameon Pierce is getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage. He's definitely hurt some fantasy teams at this rate. There's just nothing good going on for the Texans. Browns win and cover. If they don't, then that just highlights how big how many more problems they do have. Moving on to Sunday evening, Cease, we have the Seattle Seahawks at the Los Angeles Rams. The Seahawks favored by 8 on the road.
Yeah, at first I thought about that line, and then I realized the Ravens. Give me Seattle to win and cover, as much as that sounds gross, but there's just nothing on this Rams team. Like, there's nothing left. Maybe Matthew Stafford plays. Aaron Donald's now hurt. Mm-hmm. I just got to go with a team that is actually trying to win something that has, meaningful games and minutes to play. So give me the Seahawks to win and cover.
Yeah, I'm going Seahawks to win and cover too, Cease. But I think the thing that surprises me the most is, like, they only let Bryce Perkins throw the ball 5 times in the first half against the Chiefs. And, like, what do you expect to have? Like, we'll just keep the game close? Like, you're not going to keep the game close against the Chiefs when you do that. So if the Rams have any shot of keeping it within the 8 points, you have to let Bryce Perkins throw the ball a little bit. He's an NFL quarterback for a reason. Otherwise, just throw in the towel and forfeit the game or something, man. I don't know what else to say. Miami Dolphins at the San Francisco 49ers. Cease. This is my Tuanon versus your 49ers. 49ers favored by 3.5.
Yeah, this is where the rubber meets the road, as they would say.
Mm-hmm.
What was the line?
3.5 in favor of the 49ers.
Okay. I pick the 49ers to win and cover here, not just because I've become a 49ers fan, apparently, but also because Teron Armstead is probably going to be out in this game. And I think that's a huge problem because the Dolphins line without him, even in limited snaps, looked really bad. They don't really have a backup option when it comes to left tackle. And there's somebody that needs to protect. It's definitely him. Obviously, it's not to his blind side because he is he's left-handed, but it's still, he can see the pressure coming. And it's not a great place to be. They still have a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. And, I can't, unless they can protect Tua, which this 49ers front without Teron Armstead is going to bear down on the Dolphins. I can't confidently pick them. I think it'll still be a good game, but I think they're just going to get to Tua a couple too many times. That's going to be the difference maker. So give me the 49ers to win and cover.
Give me the Dolphins in the upset. I'm sticking with Tuanon. I'm not picking against them now. Teron Armstead being out will be a little bit of an issue. But I like the playmakers they have. They've been able to get the ball in Jalen Waddle's hands, Tyreek Hill's hands. Tua's played phenomenally well. Mike McDaniel knows San Francisco and what they want to do. That's an added advantage. And they've been playing pretty well since they got Bradley Chubb on the roster on defense. I think that could be also an impact that affects the 49ers there. I'm going to go Dolphins for the upset. I think this is a very, very highly contested game. Comes down to maybe the last minute. But I will say the Dolphins get the upset. Chargers at Raiders. Cease. We have, hold on one second. You get the Chargers at Raiders. Chargers favored by 2 points. What do you think here?
I'm I'm going upset pick. I'm going
Mm.
Raiders. Um, I just feel like that. I just feel like their offensive weapons are can play very well together, and the Chargers defense is not late and he is right now. I really have no doubt that he can really make this a much harder game. So for that reason only, just because I think the playmakers on the Raiders are going to come alive, I think they're able to just grind this one out on the ground, and the Chargers will lose in a very close one.
I'll go Chargers to win and cover. I think it is going to be a close game, but Justin Herbert, with what he was able to do last week, driving down the field, getting the win, they're getting guys healthier. Keenan Allen came back. I'm a big believer that the Chargers know what they have at stake right now, and the Raiders probably don't really care as much because they know they're pretty much out of it. So I'll go Chargers to win and cover. All right, Kansas City Chiefs at the Cincinnati Bengals. Chiefs favored by 2.5 points on the road. Cease.
I'm I'm gonna pick the Chiefs.
Hmm.
I'm gonna pick the Chiefs to win, and at 2.5 points, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna pick them. I'm gonna pick them to cover by a field goal. That's the reality. I think it's going to be that close. I think it's going to be a razor thin margin. I think it could very well come down to Patrick Mahomes has the ball at the end of the game and the Bengals secondary can't stop him. Because that's going to be the really key of the game is can the secondary, the Bengals hold against Patrick Mahomes? Can the defense get to him? Can we limit them?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know the offense is going to do well against the Kansas defense. Is just not playing well against the pass at all. Jamar Chase is going to be back. This has nothing to do with the offensive points. I think the bigger question, it's going to come down to who has the ball at the end. I don't think the idea that we beat Kansas City 3 times in a row and meeting them, it's kind of a hard thing to say. I know it's 2 different seasons, but it's just logically Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. Joe Burrow is right up there as well, but it's just the things he's able to do with his feet and the things he'll be able to do against this Bengals secondary that is, we got Eli Apple and a rookie Cam Taylor-Britt and played a lot to ask those guys to hold. And the pressure's just not been getting to the quarterback this year unless someone is Mahomes. So I think that's the difference major. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game ultimately, but I just think it's going to come down to we're going to leave too much time on the clock, and the Chiefs are going to be able to win.
I'll go Bengals. As you mentioned, they beat them twice. I think teams have changed, right? We don't have Chidobe Awuzie. The Chiefs don't have Tyreek Hill, but they've been playing pretty well. There's no one on planet Earth that you'd rather have as your quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. Maybe in the history of the NFL at this rate, he's amazing. But Bengals are playing well. They're getting Joe Mixon back. They're getting Jamar Chase back. I think they're going to have a little bit more offensive firepower. And I think the defense has shown they can rise to the occasion before. Eli Apple has kind of helped shut down some good receivers. And it makes me weird to say that Eli Apple is doing that, but he is. And yeah, I'll take the Bengals at home. I think it's weird that the line is 2.5 in favor of the Chiefs. I'll be honest. I think it should probably be a pick'em game, even on the road. I think give the Chiefs the respect that they have earned. But it's a little bit weird that it's 2.5 point spread for the Chiefs. All right, Sunday Night Football seats. We have the Indianapolis Colts at the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys favored by 10 points.
How is this still the game of the week?
That's a very good question. They want to keep the Cowboys in prime time because they get the most viewership. So that's probably it.
Yeah, this one should have been flexed. The Colts are garbage. Cowboys should win and cover, unless the Colts finally decide to use Jonathan Taylor. I just don't see any way the Colts keep this close at all. So, yep.
Well,
Cowboys cover. It shouldn't be in doubt. This is going to be a quick Sunday night game.
Well, I mean, I'm picking the Cowboys to win. I think they'll win decently easily, but I'm going to pick the Colts against the spread. Reason being, we've just seen the Cowboys in these situations so often and not be able to cover large spreads, and that's That's fine. It is what it is. If they get the win, they'll be happy. But the 10 points is a little extreme. They do get extra time to prepare for this game, but I'll take the Colts against the spread. All right, last one up, Cease. We have Monday Night Football, the New Orleans Saints at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers favored by 3.5.
Yikes! Give me the Bucks to win and cover. The Saints look like they're on life support.
Bucks to win and cover for me too. Unless they make a quarterback change, go back to Jameis. I'm not going to switch my opinions on the Saints very often, or even Taysom Hill. We talk about that all the time. It's different nowadays. You can play either quarterback. Just don't play Andy Dalton. He's gotten enough. It's great.
No Andy.
No Andy. He's did a lot of things for Cincinnati. No disrespect, but that's where we're at right now. All right, Cecil. Any final thoughts for the week?
No, I'm hoping the Bengals pull it out. If they do, I will be very, very happy. I think it's going to be a close game for all those people who watch out there and say, I picked against the Bengals. Yes, I did. I'm hoping it's a good game, and I hope I'm wrong. And I know it's going to be a close game, and I want the outcome to be different than my pick.
See, you're sounding like I usually do, man. Like I usually pick the Bengals. I usually pick against them, and this is how we flipped roles. We'll see what happens.
Things are getting weird, man.
It's a weird month. All right. Well, Cecil, my turn to remind everyone to like, subscribe to the podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on podcast form. That helps us out. Let us know if you want us to talk about anything, like, comment, all that fun stuff. For now, thanks for listening. We'll see everyone next week.
See you guys.